What's up, guys? This is Corey with the Dirty Gym, back to another video for y'all. So today we're going to be taking a look at some more current format decks. We'll get back to Anniversary Box here next week. I just wanted to take the opportunity to still stay in the current format. The ban's go into effect tomorrow, actually. So we still have a whole format until we get that Anniversary Box. So there's store prelims, there's ARG summer events, all that kind of really fun stuff going on now before we get into that Anniversary Box that I feel like still needs to be covered before we make that leap. We'll still continue to cover Anniversary Box stuff as well, but I want to be able to mix in current format with the future format as well. So today we're going to be taking a look at the Porunga leader. It's one of those more underutilized wish leaders. All wish leaders have some inherent advantage, obviously, because they're searching for the Dragon Balls on the deck. Porunga is kind of similar to Shenron in that way. He just has a different wish on the back as opposed to what Shenron does. I still think that makes him an interesting leader. He gives us some interesting options that I wanted to take a look at. So we'll get right into that deck list. Alright, so we're running a Victory Strike package. For those of you who are unaware, we'll get into all that here in just a second. We'll get into Porunga first. So he's Dragon Balls on the front, Porunga on the back. On his front side, he searches 2 Dragon Balls. Whenever he flips, he gets a Desire card from the drop, puts it back in your hand. As Porunga, he's got your standard wish options: draw a card, use a Desire card, and then his final wish, whatever you want to call it, is choose a battle card with an energy cost equal to or less than your current energy and put it into play. So effectively, he has a free world peace type option on his flip side, which is pretty strong. It gives us some options to do some things. So let's move on into the list. Alright, so start up, we've got 3 Dragon Ball Seekers Sorbet. So this is just a 1-drop. Whenever it comes into play, you can search your deck for Dragon Ball, put it in your drop. It just helps us accelerate our Dragon Ball engine, make sure we get those flips super early. Next up, we got 4 Fearless Assault Krillin. So this is 1-drop 5k. Whenever he swings, you may take a life. He gets plus 10,000 in crit. So this is our main attacking option early. Ideally, we're getting these out as soon as possible. We're less interested in taking life unless we absolutely have to. If there's cards in there that we need, but he's more to pressure our opponent. Gives us an option to combo cards off of him and just kind of really apply some early game pressure, which a lot of these wish decks don't typically have the ability to. Alright, next up we have 4 Explorer Bulma. Everyone should know what this card is by now from all the Super Shenron stuff, but what she is a 3-drop 10k. Whenever she comes into play, you may take the top 2 cards of your deck and put them in the drop. If you do, choose 2 of your energy, then untap them and then draw a card. So a lot of utility in what she does. We're hardly ever going to hardcast her. She is a world peace, Porunga leader ability target to bring into play, is really what she is. We have one use for her that we'll get into a little bit. Next up, we've got our 4 Path to Greatness. So it's a 3-drop 19k barrier. It's got swap for 4. It goes up into Height of Mastery is effectively what it does. And then it's got the auto whenever it comes into play. You choose one of your opponent's battle cards, put it to rest mode, then draw a card. So really strong. Barrier on this card is great. It's kind of hard to deal with right now. So he can kind of get out on turn 3 and sit. Moving on into that, we've got our 4 Height of Mastery. So he is our 8-drop. He has barrier. Or no, excuse me, he doesn't have barrier. He's got deflect, and then whenever he comes into play, you may choose 3 of your opponent's cards, ignoring barrier, and put them in the rest mode. So that's 3 energy, 2 energy, a battle card, whatever you want, any kind of combination of that. He comes out into play, and then he taps stuff down, which makes him really hard to deal with. And then he has dual attack, triple strike. So he's coming in, dealing heavy damage. He's a win con in and of himself, but a lot of the time he's just tapping your opponent down, so we get into the Victory Strike, and we're safe out of that. Moving on to that, we've got our 4 super combos. We have the Temple Rescue Trunks. So he's just a 10k draw card, pretty standard there. We're filling the drop pretty quickly, so he's pretty live early. And then moving on to that, we've got Son Goku the Wicked Power. This is our Victory Strike. So he's got he's an ultimate. He's got the keyword Victory Strike. If this card deals life damage to your opponent, you win the game. He's a 40k single strike, no barrier, but his attacks and skills cannot be negated. So they can't negate him. Really, the only option they have to do into him is they can block him or they can Mafuba him, which we have ways to get around that. And then moving on from there, we'll get into our extra cards. So we have 4 Successor of Hope. This lets us just search out our Path to Greatness. It's a free card. Go search a card with swap, energy cost 6 or less. Path to Greatness is really the only option. It's the best option to find out of that. Next up, we got 2 Bad Ring. These are just insurance, mainly for things like Mafuba. If we go into the Victory Strike and swing and they have Mofuba, feels bad. So Battering really stops that. And moving on from there, it also stops random things like Cold Bloodlust and Crusher Ball and things like that that could potentially be problems. Then we got 2 Flying Nimbus. This is just some defense. People like to go wide, things like that. It's a good negate. Then we've got 4 Personal Ambitions. So this is basically just like a free card. You play it, you draw a card, untap an energy. This just really helps us dig through the deck quickly as possible. It's a great desire card, so we can get it off the flip, we can get it at Dragon Radar, all that kind of really good stuff. After that, we've got 3 Universe 7 representatives, so this lets us search the top 7 cards of our deck and find a U7 card and put it in your hand. So this lets us find Height of Mastery, this lets us find Victory Strike, lets us find Path if we need it. We typically be finding Path already with Successor of Hope, but really this helps us find our Victory Strike quickly. Moving on to that, we got 2 Dragon Radar. This lets us help us recycle the Dragon Balls to draw more. This lets us get more Wish cards. All that's a really great utility card. We're not needing super many of them because we're not doing a lot of desiring and things like that, but it's just a really good card in general. Next up, we have 2 World Peace. This is just really an option. It lets us bring back Height of Mastery on turn 4 if we need to, if we're running slow. It lets us go into what our whole idea is on turn 4, which I'll get into in just a second. And then finally, we've got our 7 Dragon Balls. Initially, I ran 6 Dragon Balls and 1 Super Dragon Ball, but I felt like with Janemba being around and being so prevalent, Super Dragon Balls is really more of a problem for you than it is anything. If Janemba were to die off, or you just don't feel like that's that prevalent in your meta, I really feel like a Super Dragon Ball would be really great in this deck. So let's get into what we're trying to do. Ideally, what we're trying to do is we're trying to get to turn 3, Path of Greatness, play him. Then turn 4, we swap into Height of Mastery, and then we use either a World Peace for free out of our hand, or we use Porunga's Wish to bring in the Explorer Bulma from the drop, untap 2 energy. That gives us 1 to evolve into the Victory Strike, and that leaves us with 1 energy open for a Battering Laser, or anything like that that we find that's necessary. So ideally, we're a 1-turn kill deck. We're not really attacking them. If we are attacking them, we're attacking them with crit off of Fearless Krillin, and that's it. So we're not giving them any cards. We're not really giving them much advantage. We're just getting in our Victory Strike, and we're just going and swinging in for game, and then just dumping our hand into that. So it's a pretty linear strategy, but it's a Victory Strike strategy, so those are pretty linear in and of themselves. Porunga just gives us another option if we don't have our World Peace or whatever it is, that we can actually just use his ability to bring in a Bulma. So it's a pretty cool idea, I think, in general. Obviously, you've got other options with the Victory Strike packages and stuff like that, but running him in a Wish Leader I think is really cool. It's a more relevant wish to what we're trying to do than something like, I think, Shenron with the Triple Strike, or the Triple Attack, because we're wanting a World Peace and things like that, so we don't really get that option. But this gives us turn 4 the ability to get all this out and go up the chain, because we're bringing in the Bulma and untapping energy, so it gives us a pretty quick way to get into the Victory Strike on turn 4, which is a really early turn to get into him. Obviously other decks can run it like Objection and things like that, but I feel like this is a pretty seamless strategy. As long as you can get the Victory Strike, you're doing pretty well. Even if you don't, Height of Mastery himself is a win condition. If you're dealing damage with crit with Krillin, you get them down to like 6 or something, then you can just kind of go in with Height of Mastery and Battering and kind of win games that way. But overall, like I said, I think it's a pretty strong, pretty sound strategy. It's something, if you've got Victory Strike, it might be something worth looking into. But anyway, guys, that is it. And let me know what you think about the deck down below, and we will see y'all next time.